So now let us look into another example. So in my next example, we will be talking about a graph. So this is the layout of the graph, and we will also use a stack in order to keep a track of the different types of nodes which has been inserted. There is also an output sequence associated to it. So let us begin. So the start of the search begins with the root node. Let us say it is A, and we will insert this particular node into the stack and also add it in the output sequence. So A has two adjacent nodes, which is B and S. So we mark A as visited. So B and S are the adjacent nodes to A. So let us enter this in the alphabetical order, which is first of all we will be entering B, and then we will be searching for its relevant relevant nodes. So let us first enter B here, alphabetical order. So I have entered B here, and we will mark B as visited and also add it in the output sequence here. Now B further is evaluated, but it does not have any adjacent nodes, so B is popped out. Yes, so B is popped out of the stack. B is popped out of the stack, and it comes back to the root node from where it was initially started. Right now, from A there is another child, which is S, and we will now insert S into the stack and also add it into the output sequence. Okay, so S is now marked as visited. Now from S there is another child, which is C and G. So by alphabetical order, let us enter C here and also mark C as visited and add it in the output sequence. So when we are using this C, so C has, since the top of the stack is C and C has the children D, E and F, so by alphabetical order we will enter D here and mark it as visited, and we will also be entering D in the output sequence. So once we have reached B, it is further search for any additional children, but since D does not have any additional children, it is simply popped out of the stack, and the search backtracks to the parent from which it was generated. So now what we have done is, so now what we will be doing is we will be evaluating for the next child, which is E. So when E is evaluated, so we will go to the through the alphabetical order. E and F are the children of C, but we will enter E first. Okay, and then E will be added inside the stack. So let us consider this E to be inside the stack. Okay, and E will also be in the output sequence. So E is now marked as visited. So once we reach E, now E has the children H, so hence H will also be added into the sequence and will be marked as visited and will be added into the output sequence. So once it reaches H, so the traversal goes something like this, in this direction. So yes, so this is how the traversal goes. So once it reaches H, H has another child, which is G. So G is now entered into the top of the stack and also added in the output sequence. Now again, when it reaches G, G is marked as visited here after it is reached, and G will be further evaluated for any children. Now G has two children, S and F. Now S is already marked as visited, so F is the next possible child. So F will now be entered inside the stack. So now F is also visited and F is finally getting inside the output sequence. So now all these nodes are now visited, and one by one we can simply pop out all of these particular nodes from this particular stack. Okay, because all of these now has been visited in this particular order. Okay, so you have to understand that we will be, after we have done, or after we are we have done visiting all the nodes, we can simply associate so when we will be looking into this particular stack, you will identify that if we check the top of the stack here, so F has the adjacent nodes as C and G, so both of them are visited, so we can simply pop it off. Then comes the top of the stack as G, so G has the additional nodes, adjacent nodes as S, F and H, all three of them are visited, so we will simply pop it off. Then similar is the case for H, E, C, S and finally A. So all of these particular nodes are visited, and we have also added it to the output sequence, and hence we get a spanning tree in something like this: A, then we have B, then we have S, then C, then D, then E, then H, then we have G, and finally we have F. So we get this spanning tree from this particular graph. Okay, so now talking about the incompleteness of the DFS. So in DFS is considered to be an incomplete algorithm, because if we look into this particular tree, so what was the initial direction of search? The direction of search was towards this direction. Okay, it was towards this direction. So now since it is reaching the end in G and G does not have any further goal, hence it can backtrack to C. Now what if there are some other goals which are there to G? That means there are infinite number of goals. I mean, not infinite goals, infinite number of nodes which are there to G. That means I have another node N1 which is adjacent to G. Now N1 has another node which is N2, N2 has another node which is N3, and likewise I have n number of nodes or infinite number of nodes. So what will happen, since our search is going from this to the deepest node possible, it might be so that if there is an infinite number of nodes which are present, then we might never reach to a solution at all. So this is one of the problems which are associated with depth first search. That means it is not a complete search, because unlike breadth first search, which is searching layer by layer, here such concept does not arises. It will simply go to the deepest node possible, and once it finds that there are no child there, it will backtrack to the parent and takes a different option if it is available. But if this particular node is never ending one, if this is a never ending node, then it might get trapped inside an infinite node condition. Okay, now the next condition is if there is a cycle which is there within the node. Suppose D is connected to E again. Okay, so if there is a cycle somewhere which is existing in between the nodes in a particular tree or particular graph, then also the search might get stuck up in that particular point. So talking about the disadvantages, so if we actually have to point out the disadvantages, DFS gets stuck. So DFS get stuck, or it might not give us any result at all if there are infinite nodes, if there are infinite nodes along a branch. nodes along a branch. And the second condition is that if there is a cycle within the graph or within any problem scenario. So if there is a cycle within the graph or if there are infinite nodes, then DFS, so these two conditions, DFS might never return any result. DFS might not return any result. So this is how basically DFS is considered to be an incomplete problem, unlike, or incomplete solution, unlike the breadth-first search, because in breadth-first search it will obviously guarantee us with a solution, but in DFS, that is depth-first search, it might not be possible that we might always get a solution, right? And the next important thing that we have to discuss is the time complexity. So talking about the time complexity, generally the time complexity, as we have already discussed in our BFS, it is generally given by the combination of nodes and or combination of vertices and edges. Where, however, if we are considering it from the artificial intelligence point of view, it is generally given by b to the power d, where b is the branching factor. So branching factor is basically the number of child a particular node can have, and d is the depth. So if it has something like this, okay, so the branching factor here is 2, okay, and the depth here is 1. So 2 to the power 1 is equal to 2. So this many number of searches would be required in order to find out the goal, or find out the possible option that is needed, find out the possible node that is needed. So this is something which is not it is expected in your competitive exams, but if we are considering the time complexity from this particular aspect, then you have to understand that we have to consider the branching factor always and the depth in order to calculate the time complexity of depth first search. And we also said that it is non-optimal, this depth first search is non-optimal in nature. So non-optimality is because, suppose here if you look into this particular diagram, so our search initially happened across, or we considered this particular direction in order to consider the search, right? Now what if I am considering this direction first, then the search would have been a different one, or the solution would have been a different one. It might be so that we might get a better solution, right? So hence it is not optimal. That means more than one possible better outcomes can be available. So this is all about your depth first search algorithm, and it is considered as one of the uninformed search algorithms which does not have a better performance as compared to the breadth first search algorithm. So that is all for this session. Thank you.